Good, family. Back with another video. Now today I'm going to react into liberal hypocrisy is fueling American inequality. Inequality, yeah. Here's how. So NYT, the New York Times, is going to explain basically how liberal hypocrisy is fueling the inequality in the country. I'm going to probably have a lot to say to this. Y'all better be ready. Subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, and let's get it, let's go. You know, if you want some good political content, you want some good reactions to music videos, you want some good reactions to anything, you know, I'll react to anything. I love reacting to stuff and giving my personal opinion on things, philosophy, things like that. Like I definitely do shorts on philosophy, so go watch those. And no time to waste. I'm gonna hop right into the video. Let's go. Let's hop right in. Let's go all in. Let's go.
There is a question I've had for a very long time, and it has to do with this map. This is a map of the 18 states in the U.S. where Democrats control the legislative and executive branches, or else have some veto-proof majority in the legislature. Democrats in D.C. often blame the GOP for foiling their progressive vision.
When middle-class families see their taxes go up, they'll know Republicans are to blame.
But if you zoom into these 18 states, there's effectively no Republicans standing in the way. So,
but I find it very interesting, right? It's funny because I actually pulled out my book on this, right? Before I even react to this, put out a book on this, of studying that I did on this, right? So it's interesting, right? That yes, the majority, like all the states that they shown were Democratic states, but what they didn't show was where most of the poverty-stricken areas are. Most of the, I wrote them down. Most of the poverty-stricken areas are Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. I already said Oklahoma, but New Mexico is another area where this is, right? But these are the most poverty-stricken areas in America, right? All of them are Republican states. There isn't a single Republican state that is like there isn't a single Republican state, even Texas and Florida. And I'm explaining in a second. There isn't a single Republican state where poverty isn't an extensive thing in the state, right? All across the state, almost damn near, really, right? So, like, I'll give you, now, when it comes to Texas, and if you look at Florida, Texas and Florida, the area where most of the money is generated for both of those states are in Democratic districts. Same thing with California. Like, all of the areas he just shown are very wealthy areas. Not all of them, but the majority of areas he showed were very wealthy areas. So there's a lot of money relegated in these areas. Just saying, right? That's one thing that these people on the other side, the conservatives, won't talk about, that in almost all of their districts, there's really no money. So let's continue.
my question is, what do Democrats actually do when they have all the power? To answer this question, I teamed up with the Times editorial board writer, Binya Applebaum.
Okay, you got my attention.
I want you to be clear that Binya Applebaum is a very biased opinion, too. Very biased. Very, very biased. This is already starting off bad because, like, I think if you're gonna critique the other side, you should definitely have somebody that comes in that's neutral. It's on neutral ground. I guarantee you throughout this entire time, he will not critique the other side, even though it is about, like, the liberal side, but I guarantee you he won't have anything positive to say about anything liberal, like, or on the Democratic side. He's a very biased opinion, so this is already starting off bad, but let's continue.
Been thinking about and writing books about and reporting on this topic for decades.
I think, you know, Americans tend to view politics as a competition of us versus them, and they tend to think that if they would just get out of the way, then we can do the things that we want to do. There is no them standing in the way. There's just the we of Democrats and their supporters, and they get to decide what policy should look like in those states, and that is an opportunity for them to implement their vision.
For this story,
and I want to make sure this is clear. What he doesn't realize is he plays a role in that problem. You play a role in that problem by the non-critique of the other side. Oh my God, barely any of his stuff critiques the other side. Like, most of the stuff I've researched by him does not critique the other side. But I don't know. You know, I could be wrong. You guys find in the comment section things that he does do to critique the other side. I could be completely wrong on that. I really could.
I also delved into this giant document. It is the 2020 Democratic Party platform. If you want to really understand what Democrats say they want, what their vision is for America, it's found inside of this document. This document serves as a guide as we zoom into these states to answer this question. what do Democrats really do when they have all the power?
Nearly 554,000 homeless people from the 25 wealthiest Americans shows they're paying little in income taxes compared to their fortunes, sometimes nothing at all.
We cannot, in good faith, blame the Republican Party when House Democrats have a majority.
There's still very intense segregation happening in all kinds of forms all over this country.
Okay, so let's start with California. To me, California is like the quintessential liberal state. From the state legislature to the whole executive branch to most of the big cities, Dems hold majority control. So what do they do with all this power?
Looking at California, you have to look at housing.
Okay, now wait, listen. When I hear the words housing policy, I tend to sort of doze off. But Binya insists that housing policy and what is happening in California is definitely worth looking at.
You cannot say that you are against inequality in America unless you are willing to have affordable housing built in your neighborhood.
And Democrats completely agree. Here in this document, the word housing is mentioned over 100 times.
The neighborhood where you're born has a huge influence on the rest of your life. Children who are born in neighborhoods with degraded environmental conditions, with a lack of access to high-quality public services, poor schools, poor public transit, are at a permanent disadvantage.
And they even say verbatim, housing in America should be stable, accessible, safe, healthy, energy efficient, and above all, affordable.
Housing is a human right.
Housing is a human right.
The rent is going through the roof. Housing is a human right.
How does California do when it comes to housing?
You know where those signs are when you drive into a state, it says, "Welcome to California"? They might as well replace them with signs that say, "Keep out." Because in California, the cost of housing is so high that for many people it's simply unaffordable. The state has simply, for the most part, stopped building housing. I mean, there are cranes, there's housing going up, but it has slowed down over time really, really sharply, and it is nowhere near sufficient to keep pace with California's population. So what you have is not enough housing and too many people trying to get it, and the inevitable result is that prices have gone up and away.
The median price of a home in San Diego County is now a staggering $830,000.
All around California, there are cities full of people who say that they are progressive, they're liberals. They believe in a more equal America, a more diverse America. They show up to the marches, they put in the lawn signs about everyone being equal, but at the same time, they're actively fighting to keep their neighborhoods looking like this. Okay, wait, but that doesn't look so bad. It's just a bunch of houses in a neighborhood, right? No. It turns out that this is actually the result of specific policies, intentional policies that keeps these neighborhoods spread out and full of single-family homes.
So I'm trying to like let them go so like I can make like the debate go later, because I really want to debate this. First of all, housing crisis I wrote down a lot of stuff that they said. Housing crisis that happen all over the country. California is just seeing more of a significant margin because there's more wealthier people that live in those areas. So there's more of a significant margin of pricing on housing in those areas, specifically in all the areas that are wealthier, like California, Texas, Florida. Like the housing market has gone up. It's just all across America it's gone up. It's just in California it's reached astronomical numbers, and I personally think, it's just my opinion, that comes from the fact that there's a lot of wealthier people that live in those areas. However, now what he just said was actually interesting. Is it the policies or was it the people? He just said the people that were liberal in that state were the ones that are keeping the housing that is going on right now happening right now. So is it the policies or is it the people? Because I'm pretty sure California has put together plenty of policies that, yes, the people have rejected. But at the same time, like, California has put together these policies because these people want these kind of houses. I know where he's going with this. They want these kind of houses. And they rejected all the policies that could have made housing more affordable there. But still, Democratic policies are still trying to put together more affordable housing. Progressive policies are harder to pass. They're just harder to pass. A lot of people don't want change. And that's what we just don't talk about. But let's keep...
As opposed to higher density buildings like duplexes or apartment complexes. This is a real serious fight, and you can get a glimpse into it by looking at a zoning map. Yes, we're looking at a municipal zoning map of Palo Alto, California. Don't leave yet. This is really where it sinks in, so just stick around. Mm-hmm. So everything on this map that is yellow is zoned for single-family homes, like this and this. One family can live here. But here in Palo Alto, there are a lot of new jobs. This is a desirable place to live for new opportunities. Over the past 8 years, the San Francisco area has added 676,000 jobs, but only 176,000 housing units. So a few years ago, the city council voted to change the zoning of one section of the city, right here. Specifically this 2-acre plot of land. They wanted to change it from low-density housing to higher-density housing so that they could build a 60-unit affordable housing complex for elderly members of the community. Okay, so they changed the zoning. Start building the 60-unit complex. No. The overwhelmingly liberal residents of Palo Alto decided to hold a vote to overturn the decision, to revert it back to low-density, single-family housing, back to yellow. And it passed, and the zoning was overturned. So now when you go to this plot of land, instead of an affordable housing complex for the elderly, what you're going to see is this.
He called him liberal, but no, it was actually the conservative mindset of people, like people who don't want to change what things are now. They want things to be the way they've been the whole entire time. So that's not a liberal thing. That's a conservative thing. The liberal policy was to put those things in place so that people can actually have more affordable housing, but they didn't want that. So are you blaming the Democrats and the liberals for this? I'm really confused. But again, it's his. Remember at the beginning he said it's his opinion. I think that's a very conservative mindset to have, and there are conservatives that live in California. There are districts that vote on that, and even the area that he's in is a tier top back between liberal and conservative. It's not fully a liberal area. That's interesting. Let's keep going.
A row of just a few houses, all of them massive and worth around $5 million each.
I think people are living their values. You go to these meetings in these neighborhoods where they're talking about a new housing project, and it's always the same song, and it goes like this. I am very in favor of affordable housing. We need more of it in this community. However, I have some concerns about this project.
We have the hearts to do this, but we're doing it wrong, and we're dictating and harm onto the neighborhoods.
And then off we go with the concerns, and then nothing ever gets built.
This is happening all over California. And the result is that these neighborhoods are so expensive that they keep anyone out who isn't a part of this small group of super rich residents, many of whom bought their properties decades ago, and who spend their time fighting vigorously to keep the value of their real estate assets super high.
If you want to keep Palo Alto the kind of neighborhood and community that we all treasure, low intensity, low density, safe for kids to walk to school, you've got to vote against Measure D.
There's an aspect of sort of greed here and of nervousness about actually sharing those opportunities.
Let's go to...
Who do you blame for that? Do you blame liberals or do you blame conservatives? Do you blame progressive policy or do you blame conservative policy? Progressive policy is what they were trying to enact, and it seems as though the people made a conservative decision. I don't know who they're actually blaming for that. I don't know. They technically just said they put together a policy that tried to basically make things better, and that policy just didn't get passed. Progressive policies are very complicated to pass. Point blank period. But I want to hear the conservative side. What are their ideas? I don't hear any ideas but tariffs. I hear tariffs. Now taxation. Let's talk about that. This is a good one.
To another liberal bastion up here in Washington State.
God, I knew he was gonna go to Washington State, man. I knew they were gonna go there. Like nowhere else. Like not California. Not some very progressive policies in Texas. Not some very progressive policies in Florida. Not in Ohio. Like some of the progressive policies that have been passed that have made some of the communities a lot better in these areas. None of these places. They go straight to Washington State. Like let's keep. I love this. This is good. Let's go.
The Democratic Party talks about taxation, saying that our tax code has been, quote, rigged against the American people. Democrats all the time are decrying the fact that tax cuts are going to the wealthiest Americans.
It is time for a wealth tax in America.
Democrats believe in a progressive tax system where the rich pay a larger share of their income than the poor. This is like the most basic policy vision of like a progressive movement.
Yeah, and how they enact, I just want to make that clear because I don't think they're going to be 100% honest. But how they want to enact that is by taxing capital gains. They want to tax capital gains. People who make like a significant amount of money. If you look at even Kamala's policies when she was coming in, a lot of her policies were to tax people that were making over $1 billion. Like over billions of dollars in the economy, like that. Like they wanted to tax capital gains. They want to tax unrecognized gains. I remember that was one of the things they wanted to tax. But they want to attack. Keep in mind, they want to tax people who are overwhelmingly wealthy to help more with the bottom. And those policies, when searched throughout history, have been very beneficial. They're not going to be honest here and say that. They're not going to be honest here and say that. I know for a fact they're not. But the majority of time, whenever you've taxed capital gains or corporate gains tax, anything like that, when you've taxed that with a higher margin, most of the time the economy does really good. It does. You notice it under Bill Clinton. Notice it under Obama. We were going to notice it under Kamala, but now we're going to roll back on it because of Trump. But, I mean, you know, you never know. Trump's policies may be beneficial, too. You never know. I'm not going to knock Trump. It may be beneficial, like his tariffs. Let's keep going.
It's front and center in Democrats' policy platform.
But if you go and look at Washington State, what you find is that in Washington State, if you look at the state and local taxes that people pay there, less affluent families pay a much larger share of their income in taxes than the wealthiest residents of Washington State. So people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, two of the state's most famous and wealthy residents, are in this lovely situation of paying less in taxes as a share of their income than the poor people who live in that same state. And
keep that in mind. I'm gonna let him finish, but I don't even let him finish. But keep in mind that's Washington State. He's not talking about any other state in America, specifically Washington State, which is definitely something that's an anomaly and is under discussion under progressives. So like let's keep going.
This is a fundamental inversion of the values that the Democratic Party professes. There is no state with a more regressive system of taxation than Washington State.
And I'm talking like the most regressive, meaning Texas, which is like the conservative bastion of like anti-taxes, is more progressive than Washington State, liberal Washington State. How is that real? Oh, and guess what? Other states on our map also are in the top 10 of most regressive tax regimes, like Nevada and Illinois.
There have been some changes, particularly in recent years, but the overall situation remains resistant to change.
So I'm very concerned that at this time, which is a very poor time to disincent people from creating jobs in Washington State.
But is that the Democratic policies or is that the people of those states? The people of those states that want these things to remain the same. Progressive policies are very complicated to pass. Just because you have a progressive in office doesn't necessarily mean that a progressive policy is going to get passed. Progressive policies ask for a lot more. They're asking for new things to change, things to be better. And it's very complicated when the majority of America is truly conservative. It truly is. America is more conservative than it is progressive. But let's keep going.
State that we're even considering it. From that paycheck that you earn, more of that money is going to state government. And so the effect of that is basically to exacerbate inequality.
Okay, so rich liberals don't show up when it comes to housing or taxes.
Neither do conservative rich liberals. Neither do conservative rich people. Like, don't. I hate how this is being framed. Like, I really do. However, though, there are specifically speaking to liberals, but I just hate how it's being framed. Neither side who is wealthy shows up for that. And the majority of the wealthy in this country, on either side, want policies that help them benefit, that want more benefits to them. However, though, progressive policies seem to push more towards the idea of being able to spread the wealth amongst everybody else. I don't care what they say. Let's keep going.
Another major theme in this policy document is education. And the wording in here I find quite interesting. The Democrats say, quote, "We must provide world-class education in every zip code to every child because education is a critical public good." They use this word zip code to represent the fact that in America, schools get their funding based on the real estate taxes of the houses within that school district. The more expensive the neighborhood...
It's so much more than that, though. Oh my God, it's so much more than that. It's not just the real estate taxes. It's how much money the community generates in general. That's what pays for the education. How much money is generated in general. And specifically Ohio and Westchester, one thing that funds a lot of the education here is like some of our trucking companies. they fund a lot of the educational systems here. Like it's I don't know. Like, let's keep going.
The more funding goes to the school. So over here in Illinois, which is like the quintessential liberal state, there's this one county.
I'm gonna stop here because my camera's about to die. But hey, you know, subscribe, make sure you turn on post notifications, smash that like button up. If y'all want more of the reaction to this, I'll give y'all more later. But camera's about to die, so peace out, y'all.